Shamayim ba'arem Ezrimeim Hashem V'se Shamayim ba'arem I lift my eyes to the mountain from where will my help come? I lift my eyes to the mountain. From where will my help come? My help is come the Lord, Creator of heaven and earth. My help is from the Lord, Creator of heaven and earth. Da 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 Shamayim ba'arem Ezrimeim Hashem Vayse Shamayim ba'arem. This morning when I was preparing what we were going to say quickly after davening, so I had Tehillim in front of me, and I got to the pasuk, which is basically what we just said. The pasuk is, it's the end of Yom Shlishi. I forget which capital, maybe you know it by heart. Becha Hashem chasisi al evosha le'olam. It's one of my favorite nigunim in Chabad. I always loved those words, but the words really struck deep. Becha Hashem chasisi. I've taken lachsot b'noam, like choseh alai. I've taken, how do you say it? Becha Hashem chasisi. Like shelter. I'm right. And when I choose to do that, al evosha le'olam. Like when that's my decision, I have no reason to ever be ashamed if that's my decision in life. Becha Hashem chasisi al evosha le'olam, which we've just said is basically our decision making going into Rosh Hashanah, right? Becha Hashem chasisi al evosha le'olam. And then right away this nigun came with the words, which doesn't usually happen. It's just one of the worst things is when it happens right before Shacharis, because it messed up a chunk of my Shacharis. It's happened a few times. It messed up a chunk of my Shacharis because I was trying to remember it the whole time. So I didn't know what to do at that moment. Like I said, what do you do? Like, do you say? Whatever, if it's meant to be, I'll remember it, daven shachas, but then you can't ignore it, it's still there. So this is, I think, what it was. It was just an hour ago, so I think it was this. Okay. Well, I'm doing it now, but I'm sharing what though? That's the thing. Is it then? You know what I mean? Like, what's the niggin? But it expresses everything that I think I'm feeling. I don't know if it's exactly it, but I figure if I can't share it here now, then where could I share it? You know. Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha. Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Alevai shal le'olam, 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 Alevai shal le'olam, 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 Shal le'olam, 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 Alevai shal le'olam, 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 da 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 da, oh yeah, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha. This word Becha, like for me, the word of this niggun, Becha, in you, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Alevai shal le'olam, 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 Alevai shal le'olam, 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 da 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 da, oh yeah, da 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 da, oh yeah, oh yeah, levai shal le'olam, 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 alevai shal le'olam, 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 da 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 da, oh yeah, ma 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 me, one more time, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha, Becha Hashem chasisi, Becha, Becha. Thank you. He gets mad at me when I put my guitar on the floor. No, he's right. He gets concerned. He's right. You just put it. Thank you. Here's more copies of today's learning for those that need.
In New York, and I had my hard guitar case for my mind, but it was hard, and there was no seats on the subway. And I sat down on a hard guitar case, and it's an old Indian man.
He got mad at you.
You can't sit on your guitar, totally.
Yeah. All right, Chaver. So, what a week! What an amazing week! What a bracha! Thank you all for just a very powerful week. You know, this year, I have to say, like, there's so many shirim during the week, but this year, it strikes something in people because it's very interesting. It's very interesting that we're touching upon a very sensitive subjects, talking about how we're presenting our Shabbos table. So we decided, the rest of Perek Yud Gimel is a very long chapter. Perek Yud Gimel, we've been doing it for a while, and we were focusing for quite some time about the importance and the role that Zmirot, that the Nigunim, the Zmiros, the Shabbos table play. And I know it's been a very, thank you, it's been a very, strong Nikudah for many people, and I've just so inspired by Chaver that have shared with me that, like, their Shabbos tables they're taking that avoda and making it l'maisa. And to see what it's like with their children and the whole experience, like the letter I shared last week, and then responses to the letter that I shared last week, this unbelievable thing. So I was looking, the rest of that parak, which is a long parak, really continues to focus on just avoda of music, the kedusha of music. It's not music, of nigunim. But because the shir is a chana l'Shabbos shir, Friday morning, getting ready for Shabbos, so I saved those Torahs for certain times during the year that we're going to be learning throughout the year, the teachings that he has, and we're going to start today a new parak, Perek Yudalid. And Perek Yudalid, it keeps us at the Shabbos table. We're still at the Shabbos table. We're not going anywhere else, but just looking at the kedusha of the Shabbos table from a different angle. If you see, look at the rest of Perek Yud Gimel. It's the most beautiful teachings, but it's really focusing more and more on different understandings of Koach HaNegina, which we've spent, Baruch Hashem, at least 3 months on in total. So some people are obsessed to say that their whole learning is so that they could do a siyum, and it's always a holy thing to do a siyum. But if it's an obsession in order to do a siyum, you may, especially in the context of a shir that's called a Chana l'Shabbos, you just have to be, focused on what the point of Talmud Torah is. Right? The point of Talmud Torah is to stick with where you're at right now. Like someone called me last night, a physician, a physician with a very interesting shaila regarding where he works on Shabbos in the hospital. Whatever, it's a whole long sugya about. It's a machlokas between Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein is much more machmir than Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach regarding the permission of doctors on Shabbos, what they can and can't do on Shabbos. It's a long sugya. And a person felt when he was younger, this was the shita, and he even wrote an article about it, but he's in a different place in life right now, and he's had Eretz Yisrael in him for many years right now, and he's feeling different, and he just wanted to make sure that what he's feeling is not a cop-out, but it's that it's coming from a place of emes. Like, according to one of the shitas, he was much more holding by Rav Moshe Feinstein's mahalach, and now he feels more connected to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's mahalach. But the question that he had for himself was, how do I know if I'm being for real with the way I'm approaching the halacha, right? It was a very inspiring, it was very very thoughtful back and forth, very inspiring to me, like very It taught me a lot. But again, with learning as well, everything in our learning, like every time we come and learn here, alavai, we should finish every sefer we ever open. Alavai. But not l'shem saying that we finished it. You hear what I'm saying, right? You hear what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Perek Yudalet. Perek Yudalet is a beautiful, beautiful perek. And I just, Be'ez Hashem, all the Siyat Dishmaya, all the help that we need from Shamayim to be able to be plugged in. Are there any extra papers for anyone that needs? Any extra ones? There's one more? Alan, do you want? You're sharing with whatever you want. Shulchan HaShabbat, he says, is miyesodei hayadut. Miyesodei hayadut. That terminology is a very chazak language. That the Shabbos table is from the Yesodei Hayadut. It's from the foundations of Yiddishkeit. What is he speaking about right now? Yesh ladat sheshulchan Shabbat Kodesh hu echad miyesodei hayadut uchedai hadavar sheyateh ha'av katef biyom shishi sheyeh habayit mesudar begashmius. Look what he's doing to us. You think he's going to tell us something so spiritual and mystic, and he's saying, since the Shabbos table is one of the foundations, the principles of Yiddishkeit. What does it mean? Kedai she'adavar sheyateh ha'av katef. Do you know what that means? In what level? Physically, yeah. He's saying, Abbas, husbands, men, yeah, it's you. Don't ever say to the house, listen, I didn't have the proper, I need 45 minutes of achanas of kavanas of the mikvah before I go in. I can't right now. I can't be busy with setting a table. I can't be busy right now with, I don't know, dvarim kolkach, lo ruchanim. What's that?
A lot of the tzaddikim, I don't know, Chacham ben Tzira Bashul used to sit there and actually peel the potatoes for his wife.
A lot of it, betach. 100%, a lot of stories like this. It's everywhere, throughout all our... It got lost somewhere, I don't know when, in the context of Jewish, with like, hachanas are, huh?
Telling your wife to get Shabbat.
Chas v'shalom. I know, but yes, meaning even if you don't say it, like saying it inside, Chas v'chalila. So that's what, he develops this. Again, uchdai hadavar sheyateh av katef b'yom shishi sheyeh bayit mesudar begashmius, כדי שיוכלו לשבת בשולחן השבת בהרחב הסדס. זאת אומרת, anything, the peeling of potatoes, the laundry, the garbage, whatever it needs to, grilling is already became like a ruchni thing, but, whatever it is, you're doing it so that when Shabbos comes, אתה יושב ממש כמו מלך, or כמו בן מלך. That when you do sit at the Shabbos table, there's harchav hasadas, meaning that you have the availability to pashut be there, and that everything is set. וכשיש צורך בדבר, הרי שאפשר לתת פרס מיוחד לבן, על אשר יושב יפה בשולחן השבת. And he says, you know what? This is Eitzah. I know that some people say this should not be, there shouldn't be incentives when it comes to chinuch, There shouldn't be incentives, meaning prizes waiting for them to act the way that they should, even though I don't know what that word should means in the context of almost anything. Rav Shlomo once said should is almost like a word of avodah zarah. Because should means that something that is not happening should be happening. Which means that the way that Hashem is running the world, there's some chisaron in it. You have to be careful with the word should.
He spoke about giving candies to kids.
We spoke nachon now, and I'm seeing even over here. Baruch Hashem, we have strong learning throughout the day, and it's unbelievable from morning, from Nate's on. But then there's night seder. That's the place we have to pick it up. And we were discussing it yesterday, and we were saying, maybe like we were thinking about a pizza, right, for adults. You're thinking kids, whatever it is, whatever the incentive is, it has to be. But he's saying Shabbos table, make sure, like if need be, he says, he's not even saying they're doing anything. He's not even saying the kid that says the best vort or the kid that sings the best. He says no. Pashut menschlichkeit at the Shabbos table. Whatever that means, right? He says, tov latet pras yafeh, he says. Miuchad, for a son that sits like this, ויראה האב לרכז סביבו את ילדיו בשעת הסעודה. But you should really make sure your children congregate around you during the meal, על ידי סיפור עובדה או דיבורים קדושים, by holy talk. And he's going to speak about a lot. ולפעמים מכבדים את כל אחד מהבנים שאומר דבר תורה, נאה לסדרה. And then sometimes you could, obviously a great thing would be that each child should say something beautiful about the parsha. ומוסיפים על זה הוספה נאה ומתאימה, and then you can add something beautiful, not chalila to show them, that it's so much deeper than what they said. Like, you have no idea how many times I speak about this. A lot of rabbanim that after they give a vort, or they give a Torah, there's always that first person that comes up to him afterwards to tell them about the Ramban that they missed, or some kind of Tosfos that they didn't kivyochol know about it. We're not talking, and then it's just to show that they know. You have to. It's part of the deal. And but like one time, I remember I was in Eish Kodesh on Friday night, and I was eating by Rebbe that Friday night, and I saw a friend of mine charge Rav Weinberger after davening. I'm like, please don't tell him like Reb Nachman says, or just don't. And I just turned my head. I didn't want to see what he was going to try to tell him after davening, right? So. And it's a friend of mine that came in for that Shabbos. I wasn't with him for Friday night. I was by Rav Weinberger. So he says to me, I met this friend of yours after. I'm like, oh man. So he says to me, no. He came up to me and Rebbe said, I was waiting for him to tell me an Orach Chaim that I didn't mention or something. And he looked at me and he said, could I give Rebbe a hug? And he said, I knew he was one of your chevra. That was awesome. That was tremendous. Great guy. Mamasha, Zisha, a good friend of mine, lives out in Pomona, a good guy. Anyway, so he's saying over here, like after your child shares something, there's also, if it's mat'im, you have to be very sensitive about it. If it's mat'im, then you say, oh my God, that, in a way that they feel empowered, not chalila, oh, you're so cute, They say, oh wow, that also reminds me of this, or whatever it is to find it. These are all simple eitzas about the Shabbos table. So like he said, ולפעמים מכבדים את כל אחד מהבנים שאומר דבר תורה, נאה לסדרה, ומוסיפים על זה השפה נאה מתאימה, דיבורים של אמונה ועובדות מצדיקים בעבודת השם יתברך, ומידות טובות בקדושה. Always, I would say like this, always have one Rebbe story in your arsenal when you go to the table. Like you want to really prepare? You want to really prepare for your children? You want to make a real hachana? Always have one short Rebbe story. And if your kids have a longer attention span, then go weiter, go longer. Like there's some families I see what it's like. I see the way the kids are waiting every Friday, even if they don't admit it, and usually they won't, that they're waiting for that tale, for that story. Chassidic story. Stories about tzaddik. It doesn't happens to be we have such a ma'agar, we have such a library of tzaddikim stories, but any type of story that could be me'orer machshavot tovot. If you really want to say I'm really makpid on my chinuch, then you do it. And even if you don't have kids yet, then you make sure that your wife is waiting for it as well. You make sure that that's part of the Shabbos table. It's not enforcement. It's not, this is what's happening now. Get ready for the kotzker, no matter what. We're not talking like that. It's to create this natural meshicha, natural attraction, where the kid is misorer, and there's an anticipation for this week after week. It's a very special thing. Every single day. It's not pshutot today. We're not going too wild, okay? The kama ma'alot, now he says over here, we have to be Shabbos table Yidden. Shabbos table Yidden. He's going to explain. וכמה מעלות טובות בדבר, קודם כל יושבים חבורה קדושה באחד, ומדברים דברי חיזוק. What a beautiful thing. That when the only time we really are sitting together, hema lo nigal arik, we're not just doing it for nothing. There's something strong that's emanating from the table. ושמעתי מאבי מורי עליו השלום, his father was a big tzaddik. His name was Reb David Shechter. Reb David Shechter, he wasn't born Breslover, he became a Breslover. I don't remember exactly what age, but he was part of that Chabura Kedosha of the first Breslovers in Yerushalayim. That, remember, I don't know if I shared this with you, it's a whole story how they were basically in the Rova, and they were taken into captivity by the Jordanians. And it was a whole story how to get them out of the captivity. These big tzaddikim, Reb Shmuel Horowitz, Reb Shmuel Shapira, Reb David Schechter. I have a whole sefer on just that whole mile. These were Ovdim. These guys were Ovdim. It's amazing that his father was Mamish, a Chassid, but because he grew up in the Rova, he knew fluent Arabic, but he was so white. It was such and a Chassid. So this Chassid, Mamish, this Ashkenazi Chassid, had the most incredible interactions with the Ishmaelim, speaking their language. They loved the fact that he could talk. They talked so smooth. It wasn't like a broken Arabic. It was like Mamash Kacha. His father quotes him a lot, Rebbe David Schechter. שמעתי מאבי מורי עליו השלום שכאשר היו מחפשים שידוך, so when someone was looking for a match, היה נוסח שמחפשים בחור von a guten Tisch, which means they were looking for a bachur from a good table. Von a good tish, from a good table. What was that referring to? היינו שבבתים ששם התנהלו שולחן שבת כראוי. What was on that, list that you'd given, I get all the time, I'm sure you guys do also, the resumes, you know what their resume said? Shulchan Shabbat kehilchato. That was like an Indian on the resumes of shidduch proposals. It's amazing how times have changed, like what's on the resumes sometimes, what people are looking for and what people are willing to share about themselves or what they're proud to share about, right? But back in the day it was, he comes from a good table. It didn't, on the pshat it meant, he came from a good home, but really it meant, the way he's darshaning it is that Shabbos was Shabbos. The Shabbos table was the Shabbos table. And the truth is, when you think about that, if a person comes from that stock, that's a really good indication of what their home is going to look like. That's a beautiful thing. Von a guten Tisch.
According to research.
Right. How are they going to know? Nachon.
Well, the indicator, it's a good indicator of success, more so in school, for example.
Yeah.
Better than in studying, eating together as a family, at least 1 meal a week.
So here he's saying, okay, so that's on the pshat psychological level, right? Here he's saying, like also that von a guten Tisch. Now, I don't know if he's saying that, maybe, let's just see how he ends it. Sham gadlu banim tovim. That's where good children were raised. Ve'amru sheben ze ba mishulchan Shabbat v'lo mibayit be'alma. So he said, this bacher, he came from a Shabbos table and not a bayis be'alma. Bayis be'alma means just he had a home. Bayit be'alma, he just had a home. Now he continues here. Zechurani me'agon achoshuv Rabbi Eliyahu Rata zecher tzaddik livracha. We're in Perek Yud Daled, Chaver Daf Kuf Mem Hey. Perek Yud Daled. I remember from the Gon, Rabbi Eliyahu Rata. I have to make sure. I'm not sure who is referring. I think he may be referring to someone, but I'm not sure. But for now, we'll refer to him as a mechanech nifla. במיוחד לצעירים, היה שקוע כל ימיו בעבודת הקודש של חינוך הדור. This certain tzaddik, his life was dedicated to figuring out what the best education is for children. היה שקוע כל ימיו בעבודת הקודש של חינוך הדור. כאשר יהודי היה משיח ליבו לפניו, שאינו רואה נחת מצאצאיו. When a Yid would come and complain to him, and he's saying, my kinderlach aren't giving me any nachas, היה אומר לו, אנא, חשוב והתבונן. I want you to think, he said. I want you to think about the following. מה הם סוג הדיבורים שמדברים על שולחנך בשבת? Tell me what the topic of conversation is at your Shabbos table. That's what he said. האם מדברים חדשות? You discuss current events, news. לשון הרע ורכילוס חס ושלום. או מדברים דיבורים קדושים של יראת שמיים, מעשיות מצדיקים. Or is the topic of conversation that your children are hearing at that moment of the Shabbos table of the Tish, stories about Yirat Shamayim, stories of tzaddikim, shekol uvda mitzadik yesh ba shviras hayetzer. Because you have to understand something. He said, every Hasidic tale that you hear has some kind of a koach of attacking the Yetzer Hara, of actually shvirat hayetzer. We think it's just nice stuff, like nice addition, like a nice idea. This tzaddik said, actually, and it's so true. Anyone that hears a story and remembers the story of a tzaddik, it's poil on places we're not even aware of, subconsciously. It's really like that. Every story we hear, every story of tzaddikim, it does, and I see it, sometimes like, last night I had a really special night with the chevra up here, the chevra from Eish Torah, from Eish Gesher and Eish Torah came up here. I don't know, it's like 140 chevra. And I realized early on that, and especially if, there's so many words and Torahs to say, but I realized right away that with this chevra, one story, this all they need. They don't even need nigunim. They need one story, one good story. I hope I chose the right one. You never know. One story could be poil on you, Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim, infinitely more than all the divrei Torah you hear. And it's not to say that divrei Torah aren't important, but if the children know that there's going to be a story every week at the Shabbos table, wow, big stuff. And if anyone needs help in this is something I personally would go out of my way to help anyone with any of these things. Lemaisa, I'm just saying it. You never hear me say that, but I'm saying it like about this. It's mamash. Because I believe I actually believe it's an emergency. I believe it's an emergency. 80% of the calls we get here is all week is about the kids, the youth. Always, the youth. Sometimes it really boils down to things that you'd never think of. Like Eitzahs like this. I believe in it with all my heart. All my heart. My Abba, we had a lot of good stuff. We Baruch Hashem, we had a lot of music. And obviously, and a lot of nigunim, zmiras, always. It's just the nature of the Shabbos that we were blessed to grow up in. But no matter what, even if my father didn't have his own story, he always took home the most beautiful Alon Shabbat of Chabad called Sichas HaShavua. It's still going till today, right? Since I'm a little kid. You know that one? Now it's orange. We have it, I think, right? It's in shul. Sichat HaShavua, the Lubavitch pamphlet. Back then, they used to change the color every single week to get it more. But 5 years ago, Tzirei Agudas Chabad decided, let's just keep it. We need a color, we need a brand, and it's orange. It's upstairs. It's the Hebrew one. And in the third page, till today, I think, it's Maaseh Shaya Kachaya. It's a story every single week. And my father would read it to us every Friday night. Every Friday night. It was always an Indian. V'aya Mosif, and he would add, B'shulchan HaShabbat yesh lishmoa sipurim arevim. That you have to hear arev. Arev means sweet stories that bound your soul with the neshama of the Shabbos table. K'mo chen haya noeg lomar, shu mekir bachurim v'avrechim me'ulim. This tzaddik said, I know amazing guys that they basically hem perot shel shulchanot HaShabbat. They are fruits of the Shabbos table. That's how he would define them. Fruits of the Shabbos table kind of guys. That's such a beautiful thing, It's such an amazing thing. And we could do this. It's our bechira. It's our choice. And we could do it, and it should be done b'simcha. Like, again, sometimes we hear Torahs like this and we're like, oh my God, we have to kpeda to make sure it's like this because we learned this is an eitzah. Well, no, we have to do it b'sever panim yafot. You got to do this avoda with a smile. No force. And eventually it'll happen. It'll flow. It'll flow naturally. And you got to just Hashem knew what He was doing when He gave you the children that you have. It's a very important Inyan. So that means He trusts you to figure out how to make the tree grow and how to make the fruit blossom. And these are things that are happening at the Shabbos table. It's amazing how we once said it could be that the whole chinuch that children receive at home is watching the mother light Shabbos candles. Bazem mistakem akol. Everything is included in that. It could be that sometimes be'emet all a child needs to have not just Shabbos, Yirat Shamayim, Ahavas HaTorah, Ahavas HaBrios, is just by being present at looking at the mother, the way she lights Shabbos tables with the consciousness of it. It could be the same exact thing. Maybe our children's whole Yiddishkeit is dependent on that moment of you sharing a story at the Shabbos table. Now, if that's the case, wouldn't we do anything to make sure we create that environment and that we show up ready? Yes. Bezrat Hashem.
Can you recommend a book or a sefer?
Many. Oh, infinitely. Sure. I'll write it on the list. 100%. Many. I wouldn't even, honestly, go into my office, look at every section. Mamash, tons, tales. One that comes to mind right now, just like this, short ones, is Rav Twersky. Zatzal has one. I think, what's it called? It's a small one. Tales of the Old Hasidim, I think it's called. Did any of you ever see it?
It's by the art scroll.
It's an art scroll one, yeah.
Larger format.
I have it in a small Tales of.
It's like Shabbos stories or something.
Pashut, simple. One, I'll tell you my favorite one. If the kids have koyach, the Sefer Lamed Vav. Lamed Vav is one of the most amazing books. It's our dear friend. She should have a refuah shlema. Sultana Midlo, Rav Arnold Leibowitz's mother-in-law. She put out a book maybe 20, maybe even more, 25 years ago called Lamed Vav. Red cover with a beautiful picture of Rav Shlomo. 36 tales of the tzaddikim that Rav Shlomo used to say over. Though she really, not only did she choose some of the best ones, the way that she wrote it out, the way that she basically edited it, it's unbelievable. That's a great one, Lamed Vav. Highly recommended. But they put out something in Hebrew a few years ago called Yachad, also stories of Reb Shlomo that he said about the tzaddikim. Those are great as well. I think it's called Yachad Kulam Kedusha. There are many of them. Bezat Hashem, Hashem should have Rachmanis on us, and we should find those that touch our souls and that touch our children's souls. Bezat Hashem. Right, let's do just no. The next one is already a longer one. We're going to continue with a lot of eitzes for. I'm just going to give you a little bit of. We're not going to have shir next Friday. It's Erev Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos Shuvah, we're going to have shir. But what he's going to continue is something that's going to be very sensitive, even a more sensitive topic. If I had to ask you right now, I'm just going to end with this. If I had to ask you, close your eyes. What's the imagery of your parent that you remember as a child? What position were they in? What position were they in? If I had to ask you, what position were they in? Can you go there in your mind for a second? What position were your mother and father in, right?
At the Shabbos table?
Bichlal, and then we'll go also to the Shabbos table. Good shayla, right? The Bichlal, and then also at the Shabbos table. Okay? So, he's going to say something really startling, that the tikkun, basically, that could happen at the Shabbos table. For today's, he's not saying it about this because it's not even a shaila in his circles, but I'm taking it for us, that the last imagery we would ever want our children to have of us that they remember is this. And unfortunately, that is a big one. Big one. One of the places to shoot a dart at that imagery is at the Shabbos table, and we're gonna discover that a bit more. So it's deep about that, very, very big stuff. Again, dvarim pshutim me'od, but stuff Hashem l'chol nefesh. It should be a beautiful Shabbos, everyone. Yom shekulo Shabbos. We should just continue to give each other koach to keep on going strong.